Welcome everybody to the 2019 Honda Insight Touring. This is the hybridized version of the Civic with a 1.5 litre engine and a CVT and a battery pack that brings along all the merits of hybridized driving, but additionally a lot of the drawbacks as well. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this Insight for a full in-depth review, going to check out the interior, how it drives, and all of the other things that I think you should know about this car. And then at the end of this video, I'll place it in my ranking system to see where it competes against other hybridized sedans. The most critical thing when it comes to the Insight, in my opinion, is how does it compare against the equivalent Honda Civic Touring. So if we're going to just talk about the Touring and skip out the SI, in my mind, if you're buying a top trim version of Honda's compact sedan and you're avoiding the SI, it's likely because you don't see the benefit of the extra power or that enthusiastic driving packages. So you're looking at the regular Touring and then this hybrid. Well, the interesting comparison is where this hybrid starts is where the Civic Touring ends, and they exist at almost the exact same price. They both have 1.5 litre engines with CVTs, but this one has a naturally aspirated engine whilst the Civic is turbocharged, and the equipment levels for each vehicle is very, very similar. In this Touring model, we'll have the upgraded leather seats, the rear heated seats, and the moonroof that you see right above me. The total output of the batteries, the electric motor, and this 1.5 litre engine is 151 horsepower with 296 pound-feet of torque. If we're strictly comparing the engines to the Insight and the Civic makes a substantial amount more power. You'll quickly realize that the exterior and the interior design is different to the current Civic, and where I really don't like the styling and the wacky looks of that Civic, I really like the look of this Insight. It's very handsome with a few nice touches. For example, there's a tiny blue strip in the grille that Honda uses to signify their hybrid models, and this one is so slight it actually took me a couple days to find it. The interior is slightly different. We have a different touch screen which has some physical buttons down along the side and of course a volume knob. A lot of people will be very happy to see that. Where Honda tried to reinvent the wheel, it didn't work out for them so well, and coming back to this volume knob just makes so much sense. So what are some of the merits to this hybrid powertrain? Well, depending on where in the world you live, you might have some kind of government reimbursement for buying a hybridized or electric vehicle, so that plays into it. Here in Alberta, we don't have any sort of government plan for that right now, so no comment in that respect. And you can have a pure electric drive where the engine totally powers off and you can have a very silent drive. As with many other hybrids, and with this Insight, there's a regenerative braking system, so when you're coasting or applying the brakes, a little bit of electricity gets fed into the battery pack. And this is my favorite thing when it comes to hybrids. It's a different element of fun. It's a different element of involvement. Yes, this might not be the sporty SI or a Civic Type R. It's no way meant to be. But when you're on a stretch of road and you're given two choices and you know one way has more downhills, you want to take the downhill so you can recuperate a little bit of energy and put it into your battery pack. And that's the brilliant thing with hybrids. You can create more electricity, you can create more fuel in a way as you drive along. And when it comes to any other vehicle without a hybridized or electric powertrain, you can't just create new gasoline out of thin air. Also, adding on to the regenerative braking system, you have these paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. They don't do anything to change gears. Of course, it's a CVT, can't do that in this kind of transmission. What they do is adjust the intensity of the regenerative braking system. As soon as you tap down on this minus paddle, you'll get a couple arrows indicated. It will turn off the cruise control if you're using it and try and put more energy back into the battery pack. The Insight has an interesting way of splitting up its driving modes. If you leave the computer up to its own devices, it will go into EV power when it sees fit and engage the engine when it needs to. But if you press this button down here, it locks in the EV mode. where if you satisfy its parameters, it will use up all of the electric power in the battery that it can before engaging the engine. And you can see all of that at work with the power displays that's available in your digital instrument cluster or on the touchscreen itself. I love having this system going so you can see when you're creating power or sending power to the front wheels. The car always knows best, however, with that EV mode, if you're driving too fast or you're heating the cabin or the engine is just too cold, that system won't engage. So right now I'm in the blue zone. I've got a little bit of battery charge. I'm going to hit the EV button right now, and now it's engaged and the engine has turned off completely. But now the electricity level is dropping on the left-hand side. And then you have sport mode, which is the exact opposite of EV mode, trying to prioritize that 1.5 litre engine that you can probably hear in the background now. The dash lights up red and the engine gets a little more responsive. I'd say the steering gets a touch stiffer as well, but the engine is the thing you'll notice before anything else. So those are the positives of a hybrid powertrain. You can have a quiet drive, you can create more energy, you can have a little bit of fun driving around. But the downsides that comes with this primarily sticks with the 1.5 litre engine. I experienced the same problem in the Clarity plug-in hybrid, a vehicle that's much larger than this and offers the plug-in capability that the Insight can't. The refinement of the 1.5 litre engine matched with the CVT really isn't good. There is a lot of droning noise at any point that you demand any little bit of power out of the engine. Highway driving in this car is largely spoiled. When you're going up a hill, that 1.5 engine needs to produce the power to get you moving, and it's just constant and unrelenting. The CVT does nothing to help. In fact, it contributes to the problem with that same rubber band effect that you'll see in a few other CVTs, but I wish Honda could use the same technology or the same programming that they use in the Accord 1.5 litre with that CVT. That was an absolutely excellent example of how you could tune a CVT to mask the fact that it was a CVT. It doesn't exist here, and that bothers me slightly because I know that it exists in other vehicles, but as this problem is the same here as it was in the Clarity, perhaps it's just something to do with the connection with the hybrid powertrain. Apart from those downsides, the Insight is a very good car to drive, immensely comfortable, quiet, really well made. And if you got into this car not knowing it was hybrid and really not paying attention to what was going on in the screen in front of you, I don't think you would know anything was different. Other things I really like about the Insight, it has almost the exact same steering wheel as the new Accord, so the buttons feel great. And much like the Accord, it feels like a very premium competitive vehicle. You have the adjustable digital instrument cluster, of which you also had in the Accord, and what it does best is that if you've got numbers on the left-hand side of the digital screen and with the fixed analog speedo, the typeface and the way they're backlit, again, if you didn't know that this was a digital system, you could very easily be fooled thinking that they're both analog dials. All the buttons feel excellent. There's a lot of storage space in this center console here. So the armrest slides forwards and backwards. You can tuck away this cup holder if you wish to access an even taller one for the big gulp enthusiasts out there. Rear seat comfort is pretty good for someone my height. I'm 6'4" and my hair will rub against the ceiling, but there's more than enough legroom. But maybe keep it to 2 people back there with a big hump in the center. Sitting 3 people next to each other could be a bit tight. The battery pack sits underneath the rear seat, so you don't lose any cargo capacity for the Insight versus the Civic sedan. Do have to watch out for these exposed hinge arms though, if you're ever loading something precious. So standard tech that you'll find in this Insight includes the Honda Sensing suite of safety systems, heated front seats, the leather steering wheel, dual zone climate control. A couple of omissions, however, is no heated steering wheel at all in the Insight. That bothers me slightly, kind of a necessary thing for Canadians, and especially in the part of the world I live, for our winter times, and for a car that retails for this price, I think it should be here. Now, this is a system I'm starting to see phase out of a fair few Honda systems now, and that's the Honda lane watch system, where you indicate to the right and what is in your blind spot shows up on the central screen. It's a good idea, but it doesn't have the best execution in my opinion. There's still just a touch too much lag between indicating, hitting the physical stick here, and then the image showing up on the screen. For me, it needs to be instantaneous. And because it isn't, to me, it's useless. I would much rather have the blind spot monitoring system embedded into the wing mirrors than this Honda lane watch system. And another drawback, the image resolution just isn't as good as the reversing camera. And of course, it gets rid of all of the information that you might have on your screen. So if you're following the map and you're indicating out of a roundabout, let's say, you could find yourself in a spot of trouble if you really needed to know which exit to take. So that wraps up all my thoughts and everything that I think you need to know about the Insight. Just because I enjoy the characteristics of a hybridized powertrain and what it's like to live with a vehicle such as this, but it's still not perfect. That 1.5 in combination with the CVT is just a bit too harsh. I hope that Honda finds some way to refine that in future models alongside this and the Clarity, because I think at that point it will get the cars to be perhaps more widely accepted, perhaps more desirable, and cut back from the potential drawbacks that you have with a hybrid powertrain. So that's exactly why I say that the Honda Insight is something that you should consider owning. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Please like the video if you liked it, and share it if you think other people would like it too, or if they're even out to go buy themselves a new Honda Insight, send them my way. Thanks again for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll hope to see you again soon.